everybody. Welcome to Take 5, the podcast. It's Nick Growall once again with our lovely circle of panelists. To my left again is Taryn Sherwood.
I'm so exhausted.
He has been up all night editing a video for
my church. We do events throughout the year, and last night was one of those editing all-nighters.
Yes, I know how that feels. So, Corey Williams is next to him.
Hi.
How was your weekend?
I'm also tired. I was at that same event, but with students. So.
Next to him is Isaac Growall.
Hello. I got plenty of sleep.
Did you?
I did.
Way to rub it in there. And next to him, mimicking me as I'm talking, is Tommy Williamson.
Oh, hi, Nick.
Hi, Tommy.
Why is Nick a mannequin to you? Like, he's like...
my arms.
He was a robot.
My arms apparently move.
Oh wait, marionette
as I
puppets.
talk.
Like,
Yeah, it was marionette.
There are no strings on me, Tommy.
Oh, there's plenty of strings, Nick.
So anyway, last week we talked a little bit about Oscars. We talked a little bit about all the movies that are coming out this year. But just to start off today, I wanted to kind of do a weekend wrap-up. Once again in the box office, the American Sniper movie starring Bradley Cooper, directed by Clint Eastwood, took over box office number one again. I believe it's earned $64 million, which is only like a 28% drop in earnings. So it's pretty impressive, even for January. But the other big one is that, and this might have been expected from everyone at the table, but the Johnny Depp starring Mortdecai bombed terribly. I believe it might have made like $4 million this weekend. Yeah, $4 million.
Yeah, something like that.
It was like 4.1, 4.3, something like that. It wasn't a lot.
Yeah. So, any thoughts on either of those films and their whatever they happen to get this weekend in the box office?
I haven't seen either one of them, so...
well, I know you... none of us have seen them yet.
Oh, well, then why are we talking about them? Next topic.
just for like that one guy that's listening in like Greenland or something, we're 5 guys that are talking about movies in a town that doesn't actually have a movie theater at this point. Like,
that's the charm of this podcast.
We talk about movies that we haven't seen.
The closest theater is 30 minutes away on a good day.
But I mean, my main point, especially bringing up Johnny Depp, was that even the trailer for the Mortdecai movie like did not sell us at all. We were like, this just does not. This looks like a poor man's.
It looked like a Pink Panther movie. Is what it looked like.
Nick is lying to you once again, dear audience.
What did I lie about this time?
The trailer totally sold me. I wanted to see.
We must have watched 2 different trailers.
Well, you're saying that it didn't hook us, any of us, and that is a lie. Because
you're speaking from the table, and he doesn't like it.
Yeah,
I'm sorry that I assumed.
Yeah. You know what assuming does? Makes you look like an ass.
That's not anyway.
Yeah, because assuming a majority rule is making you an asshole, Nick.
Apparently,
yeah.
Assuming. Yeah.
Anyway, but I think a lot of it might have to do with Johnny Depp's filmography recently has been very up and down, and depending on who you ask, it's been more down than up. He did have recently a minor role in Into the Woods, which was a good movie.
But he had top billing.
And he had top billing.
He was the reason people go.
He was part of the reason people came to watch it, despite that he was in it for 4 minutes.
Is that even considered a minor role? Because he was integral to the plot. It's not really a minor role.
He's integral to the plot, but I'm just saying...
It's a supporting role more than
supporting cast.
I would definitely think a lot of people went in... and actually probably see him in a musical playing a wolf. It just seems like a role that screams weird and strange. Mm-hmm. So people probably wanted to watch it and were probably disappointed that it was
so small.
About 4 minutes of screen time. But he was still one of the top billed actors in it.
They should. Oh, go ahead, Tommy.
No, I was just going to make a really dumb joke. Go ahead.
I want to hear it.
Oh, okay. Remember, Nick, there are no minor roles. Just actors who happen to be minors.
Anyway, as Tommy continues to make my job harder.
There are no small parts, just
I think
bad actors.
It would have been better if they just had it, they didn't even tell anyone about it. So then when people went, they were like, Johnny Depp. And they told their friends about it, like, Johnny Depp's in it.
Because there's other movies that have come out this past year even that had a big actor in it that you didn't No was
but
attached.
But don't say it out loud, kids.
I won't spoil it for anyone. I'm just saying.
But there was a cool trend of
there was
14.
an interesting trend was like, oh,
let's sneak so-and-so into the movie.
Yeah. And so, but I think a lot of Johnny Depp, Tommy, you're just... Tommy continues to mimic me as I try to run this show. But, anyway, recently it seems like Johnny Depp has been labeled as the guy that has the weird roles and wears the crazy hat, which I don't think is true. I mean, I think just a lot of his roles stand out that way, but...
Well, I mean, that's how he built his career. I mean, he's been doing this since Edward Scissorhands, and, I mean...
Tim Burton.
I just feel like people seem to forget a lot of his roles where, he takes off the crazy hat and is actually he breaks kayfabe and is actually doing a serious role, or a role that's more human than a Mad Hatter or a Jack Sparrow and things like that.
I think ever since Sleepy Hollow, that's kind of whenever he started to get this real, eccentric personality. Because after that, it was like the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie.
Yeah,
that was like the first major.
I think as big of an actor and as long as career he had, most people don't understand that he's actually the 2000s is when he really broke out as a huge draw. Most of the 90s, he was, and he's in a lot of movies, and people, liked him, and he was probably more critically acclaimed in the 90s with, like, Donnie Brasco and Below and things like that.
Ed Wood,
things like that, more critically acclaimed, and then Pirates kind of took him into...
Superstar.
Now I'm superstar and I make franchise films, and people expect that of him. But I think... and I'm a fan of Johnny Depp as an actor. Like, I like his style of acting. So I haven't seen Mortdecai, but I'll probably see it, and I probably won't hate it. I didn't hate Lone Ranger.
Yeah.
I didn't hate Rum Diary.
For anyone that's wondering, we all enjoyed Lone Ranger despite the massive critical hate it got.
Isaac, be very careful with what you're about to say.
No, I was just going to say, I love the Rum Diary. That's all I'm saying. That's great.
Okay.
So there's a lot of movies that's flopped, and it's weird because it seems like every time he makes a non-pirate film, it's considered a flop. So I don't know if people are just that in love with Jack Sparrow.
Well, I mean, no one's defending Pirates 4, to my knowledge.
I love Pirates 4.
Okay,
Corey.
There's one person
Corey is the lone defender.
Doesn't it have Christoph Waltz in it?
I haven't seen any of the Pirates movies after the third
or the fourth Pirates.
Well, there's only
they're
making
5.
Okay, so they are
making a fifth.
5. They casted someone in 5 today.
I heard that Christoph Waltz is going to be
some woman they casted for Pirates 5. So I guess Pirate 5 is starting the process
to ramp up a little bit.
I think it films in February. I think it starts filming next month.
Gotcha.
It's Pirates 5.
Okay. But I think even in the 2000s, when he kind of hit blockbuster status, a lot of people forget about the smaller movies he did. Like, he got
Secret Window.
That's a great movie.
Finding Neverland.
Oh my gosh, it's such a heart-jerker.
Yeah, and different movies like that, and they forget.
The Ninth Gate.
Or even even Public Enemies. Like, people forget that he had done all these smaller films that... where he wasn't, putting on the crazy hat or the makeup and stuff, and they always want to point at, oh, he's just the dude that is over the top and does this. He's not a good actor. You're like, shut your mouth right now. But
and I think that probably the thing that we, obviously that a lot of people, like just average moviegoers, even us, can forget sometimes is if I'm Johnny Depp and I really enjoy acting and I've made tons of money. And roles are now whatever I want them to be.
How much is a butt ton?
A butt ton. He's in the top 10, I think. I think he's $450 million is what he is his net worth.
Okay. I was just wondering if there was an actual definition for what constitutes a butt ton.
$450 million is a butt ton of money.
All right.
He owns his own islands and things. He's up there in the Jack Nicholson, Robert De Niro type. Yeah. I've made tons.
Okay. At that point, you aren't making films as a profession. You're making films as this is what I love to do.
Yeah, because I know that I read interviews around Public Enemies, and Public Enemies kind of people thought that's a strange movie to make, but he was like, no, I'm fascinated by that era. John Dillinger, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And he's actually made another gangster movie that'll be out this year about Whitey Burger. So it's kind of the same thing.
Cool.
Mortdecai. I think he's probably at a stage of career where he probably doesn't care as much about things.
About getting critical acclaim.
Or being a huge. He's just this role looks interesting. This role looks fun. I have the money now. I'm just going to enjoy work.
Yeah,
type thing.
Which isn't a bad place to be at all.
Yeah,
I think that's a good way to do it. Like if you're going to be an actor, like have fun. Enjoy yourself. If you're going to do a role, make sure it's something that you would enjoy doing.
Because there's so many actors that are just going for Oscar bait after Oscar bait.
Cumberpatch, all right?
Even Leonardo DiCaprio to a degree.
Yeah, Leonardo,
he's really begging for it.
He's out there in his boat, just cutting that white Oscar, man. And going crazy doing it. So.
I don't get it.
I still.
Leonardo plays Herman Melville soon.
Watch, that's where he's gonna get the Oscar for it.
I still think it would be great if, like we had talked about, that
I want to win an Oscar playing Leonardo DiCaprio in a movie about his life.
And he never gets the
Oscar. And he doesn't get it.
But you get the Oscar.
Yeah, I'm going to thank him. Hey, Leo, thanks for not getting an Oscar so we can have an interesting story to shoot.
You want to touch it?
Yeah. Well, you can't.
But it is interesting. And, he continues, one of the main reasons he continues the Pirate series is so that because his kids enjoy them. And he's spoken out about
Depp, not Leo.
Right.
Yeah, not Leo. Yeah.
Not Depp.
Leo's kids.
Leonardo DiCaprio is busy on boats with 30 women and dating Rihanna.
Yeah, he didn't have kids, so
not yet.
Leo's still having a good time.
Oscar first.
He sunk a little too deep into that Wolf of Wall Street role.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think you could look at a lot of actors, even away from Johnny Depp, and look at their careers. Even Leo's an interesting thing where he was considered a heartthrob at first and had to make certain movies, and then he kind of got that adulation early on, but it took him a while to break the Titanic mold, to a degree, and being that, and then just start making his own, what he enjoyed, and becoming an A-list actor who can really pick whatever the heck he wants in search of films. And Depp, same thing, started out as a heartthrob. He was a TV 21 Jump Street, on Tiger Beat magazine heartthrob, and he hated it.
Tiger Beat magazine.
Yeah. So, but he hated it. So he actually, he got himself quit/fired from 21 Jump Street because he got the Edward Scissorhands role.
Yeah.
And he was like, I love this part. This is the kind of stuff I want to do. So even at that age, he always kind of showed himself to be an actor that said, I'm not really chasing money because I'm on a television show that's doing great. It tanked when he left, but he was carrying it for a long time. I would rather go do parts I enjoy, and he took a
which is a very bold and brave choice to make, especially being a young actor has very little of a track record other than being, I made this teenage show.
And Nightmare on Elm Street.
And
to look at, he left a show that was at the time popular to hook up with Tim Burton, who
was unproven.
There's about 4 movies in, maybe.
That was post Batman.
That was post. He's probably coming right off of Batman, Beetlejuice, and Pee Wee Herman movie.
Yeah.
Those are his first movies, and the Pee Wee Herman movie that was weird. Beetlejuice became a cult classic, and then Batman, he was hated for a long time for even thinking of Michael Keaton. It worked, but so he took a shot, and that ended up being one of Hollywood's biggest marriages in terms of Burton and Depp.
Yeah.
And then they did a threesome with Helena Bonham Carter, and so we got that trio going now.
Well, they divorced, so.
Oh, they did. That's sad.
So who keeps Depp now? It's
they kind of share because Helena was in Lone Ranger,
That's right,
so they're still kind of,
There's some back
they're
and
sharing
forth.
custody of
Every
Johnny
6
Depp.
months they have to trade over.
She was in Lone Ranger?
Yeah.
She was the
porcelain leg.
Yeah.
The ivory leg.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So Depp's still getting her work and stuff, and I'm sure Burton and Depp will make another weird movie.
Alice in Wonderland or something.
There aren't any more Harry Potter movies to keep her career afloat.
Yeah, so she's doing it. But even as of recently, you have Matthew McConaughey just won an Oscar, and he's getting all this critical acclaim, and he's even gone out and said, well, I had to make the chick flicks for 10 years.
Because he was getting the money.
Until I could get just financially stable enough for me and my family, and now that I have all the money I want and we need, I can make... But he decided, I'm now going to make... He kind of went opposite. Mm-hmm. He seems to be searching for those roles that are going to challenge him as an actor.
Yeah.
Like selling Lincoln cars?
Yeah, like doing Lincoln commercials.
Yeah.
and Interstellar and Dallas Buyers Club, and he's looking at now this 4-film franchise of Stephen King's The Stand, and
because that's, I mean, just the fact that you make it into Hollywood doesn't mean that you're going to have this long-lasting career. Yeah. So for them to make
like River Phoenix,
you know,
it's business essentially.
His career just totally tanked.
And that he was brave. There's actors that are brave enough to go against the trend and go, no, I don't want to be seen as this heartthrob. I want to do challenging work. I want to do stuff that I want to do. And for Johnny Depp to be able to do that and be as successful as he was, you know, he struck gold once he hit Captain Jack Sparrow era and took off that way. But even the 90s, you know, he was still moderately successful for an actor. Mm-hmm. So it's just, people complain about, oh, well, he's just doing all these stupid movies that kids like. It's like, well, that's what he wants to do. He's done all the serious stuff. He's done all the artsy, crazy stuff. But now, I mean, he's at a level which very few people get to be at, which is, I'm going to do it.
And I think that's probably where he's at. Is he's just going to take interesting roles. He's probably and I don't really know that like return is going to matter as much to his role choosing. I'm sure like it's probably hard, you know, to be a part of a project and feel partly responsible for a flop or something like that might hurt a studio, hurt someone's pocket. But at the same time, a lot of actors do look at roles and go, "Oh, this is going to have a huge return," you know. But I think if people like Depp and Brad Pitt and these guys that are at this point in their career, you know, your DiCaprios and things like that have reached this point where they get to just choose their roles and stuff like that. If they were looking to make bank and make huge, they would be lobbying for these superhero movies. And you haven't seen any of those huge guys do that or try to step into them.
I remember there was a rumor, back when Thor was getting made, that they had one of the people they wanted or talked about was Brad Pitt being Thor. Yeah,
and he would have been excellent.
And then we talked about Johnny being a possible Doctor Strange, which he would have been good for that as well too. Yeah. So, that even still kind of speaks to what they're doing. They're like, you know, that's not real. They could have taken the money. They could have gotten this obviously successful franchise that's going on, but they decided, no, I'm going to go over here and do this. I'm going to go do this gangster movie. I'm going to go do Fury with Brad Pitt, movies that are different and not something that you would expect A-listers to always jump on. So,
and I'm sure George Clooney told them, "Hey, the superhero thing doesn't work."
Speaking of Clooney, we just watched Batman and Robin. We went back down memory lane, and I think
apparently I dodged a bullet last night.
You did.
Not a horrible. I've watched it recently. It's not the worst movie. The last half sucks. When Batgirl comes in, it just you remember everything wrong.
Time heals all wounds, or at least most of them. But I think when you're watching it, I mean, it's obvious that it was made for kids.
Oh yeah,
it's super obvious. I mean, we watch it, and there's plenty of plot holes and stuff. But I think what it comes down to is this was obviously made for kids with a couple of sexual innuendos thrown in there by Poison Ivy.
It was made for kids and college students that want to drink alcohol.
Yeah.
There is a drinking game where every time Mr. Freeze makes some sort of ice pun or something like that, or cold pun, you're supposed to drink, right?
There are any bat, ice, or plant puns.
Yeah,
spoiler alert, you die at the end.
Yeah.
I'm actually dead right now.
Tommy's ghost is floating by.
You watch it, and there's just times where it's not even necessary. No, it's like Schwarzenegger dived into this role and method acted. It's like, what killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age!
I'm going. This is the part right here. I'm going to say something really cool. We were talking about it last.
Something cool.
We were talking about it last night, and Tommy had brought up that there was an edited version of the movie where they took out a lot of the bad puns and all the bad, cheesy things about the movie. And you said it was like how long?
It's like an hour.
Like an hour long movie.
It was a TV feature.
It was 30 to 45 minutes of this movie
it's called like the de-assified version.
I just don't feel like it'd be as charming.
Yeah, not quite. Well, speaking of Batman, and we found a segue here,
Wait, can I use the graphic again?
Yes, you can use the graphic again.
So I guess we should mention...
Wait, is it like the bat symbol? Woo!
No, it's the Paul Blart. It's the Paul Blart. But we could use...
I want the... But now it just needs to be the...
Maybe like get like a bat symbol on a Segway.
I'll just put Batman's head on Kevin James riding the Segway.
Fair enough, Trey.
There's like 10 different Segways going on right now.
just nuts.
I'm going to hate myself later tonight when I have to edit this.
But, Suicide Squad. We had talked last week about a lot of the big movies coming out this year, but one of the ones that is in development and is about to start shooting is part of the DC Cinematic Universe.
Very loose.
The very loose Cinematic Universe.
We don't know if there's actually a universe yet.
Right. They're trying really hard. And so part of it is they're going to make this villain movie starring a lot of your Batman villains. It's some of them.
Hold on.
They're more often associated. Go ahead and fill us in here. But most of them are often affiliated with either Batman or Green Arrow characters. Am I correct?
Well, I mean,
after you corrected me, but
yeah. in most of the DC comics, like everyone fights everyone's villains.
Right.
But
Batman's really the only one famous for having a large personal rogues gallery, and Superman to an extent, but DC they have shared a lot of it.
Yeah, you wouldn't really say Deadshot. That is most certainly a Batman villain. Has Batman faced him? Yeah, but he's not Bat-centric. Okay. Same with Deathstroke, not Bat-centric.
Yeah.
Really, I mean, Harley Quinn is the only one that you could say is Bat-centric.
Because of her ties to the Joker.
Yeah.
And even a lot of Joker and stuff is like tussle with Superman every now. It's just not common.
Yeah,
as it is with some of the others.
Yeah, it's like Batman's villains are very localized. They only operate in Gotham City, so they only face Batman.
So give us for those of us that are listening on the show that don't really know what Suicide Squad is, like me.
Does anyone at this table really know?
Isaac doesn't.
I'm not.
Tommy, do you have an idea
this
of
is
the
like
synopsis?
I thought this is the one comic property where we're actually not 100% sure on.
The Suicide Squad is like a government program that they hire out these like super villains that are on death row or whatever, and you perform these like high risk missions essentially. And once you do a certain number of missions, your slate is wiped clean and you are released. Like if you have a lifetime sentence, you go do 10 missions or whatever. If you're still alive at the end, you're let go.
Okay.
But if you go rogue...
then they blow up your head because they put a little micro bomb up your nose or something like that.
Didn't Marvel kind of do this once with like that purple hooded guy?
I don't...
They kind of a superhero team out of a bunch of villains.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I forget his name, sort of like a V or something.
I know.
Baron Zemo?
Zemo, yeah, wasn't Baron Zemo? Didn't they kind of make a superhero team out of him, but they were villains?
Yeah, Baron Zemo's kind of a bullshit
superhero. Isn't a lot of the Suicide Squad that right now?
No, Deathstroke kicks ass. Deadshot is awesome.
Deathstroke is just... Who ripped off who in Deathstroke and...
Deadpool?
Yeah, Deadpool.
Deathstroke came first.
Okay, so Slade Wilson's first. Wade Wilson's second. Yeah. Okay. I always thought DC maybe did it first because Slade was a way dumber name. So they were like, Slade Wilson. So I always thought Deadpool maybe came first.
No.
I know a little bit of Suicide Squad, not what they're doing, but just of the like the name and the organization, because they had like a small season-long stint on Smallville where none of these names that are involved now, the Suicide Squad, were in the Smallville iteration.
It just said Suicide Squad.
Pretty much. And oddly enough, it wasn't even... Rick Flag wasn't in charge of it.
Yeah.
It was Amanda Waller, which is sort of a big...
Well, she's essentially like the
Nick Fury of the group.
She's works for the government. She's supposedly a good guy. That's on her card, but... anybody that...
She plays that fence well.
Yeah, very well. So she assembles the teams.
Yeah.
To give a quick rundown, if you don't know who's playing who in it, Harley Quinn is being played by Margot Robbie. You might remember her from Wolf of Wall Street.
I don't know who that is.
She was the hot blonde that married Leonardo DiCaprio in the movie.
Talentless.
Jay Courtney, also known as Bruce Willis' son.
No, Tom Hardy dropped.
Tom Hardy dropped. Jay Courtney is playing Boomerang. Will Smith is Deadshot.
Captain Boomerang.
Yeah, exactly.
And then boomerangs at people.
Yeah, was it like I know that we just had the whole the villains play around a lot, but he started off as like a Flash villain, didn't he?
He started out as an Outback Man villain.
Yeah, Flash villain. He's also
your days are through.
Spoiler for anyone that plans on reading comic books that came out 5-6 years ago, or 10 really. Captain Boomerang is the villain that killed Tim Drake's parents.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay. Got it. Okay.
Man,
and then
that sucks.
And then we have the Enchantress, which is being played by Cara Delevingne or something.
Why is Enchantress even on the Suicide Squad?
I don't know.
Then Will Smith's playing somebody, isn't he?
Yeah, Will Smith is Deadshot, and then there's rumors that that Deathstroke is going to be in it that we had talked about a second ago.
I hope so.
And then there's the role of Rick Flag, which is kind of like the leader of the group, and he's not a villain. He's just the good guy that's kind of
watching them.
Yeah, keeping an eye on them and leading the group. But which was originally Tom Hardy, who had played Bane in the Dark Knight trilogy, but he dropped out due to scheduling issues with his other film. And then
he's just too short for the role,
or he's too short, or he just might have read the script and was like,
he's like, I would really like to go out on top with DC.
But they had approached Jake Gyllenhaal and he turned it down. So I mean, I know none of us really know Rick Flag, but from what I've read, it sounds like he's not the biggest fan of the Suicide Squad. Like he's one of those heroes that's like, I don't want to be here. This is not my thing. I want to be doing something different.
He is a man that loves his country, though.
Oh yeah,
super patriotic.
So the name
literally Rick Flag.
Okay,
like he's the patriot of any sort of group that he's a part of.
Would you say he's a lot like Captain America, or is he like a rougher Captain America? Maybe
he's a Captain America type character in levels of patriotism, but no way like Captain America in terms of, I'm going to restrain myself from doing something that's a little bit shady.
So Dirty Harry should be Rick Flag.
Okay.
That sounds awesome.
Clint Eastwood.
I wouldn't be against it, but he is like 70-something years old.
Doesn't matter.
That's how patriotic Rick Flag is.
We can rebuild him.
We could get Clint Eastwood's no talent son.
Just dub in Clint Eastwood's voice.
His name's Mark.
He was in in that awful Texas Chainsaw reboot.
Okay, but and there's also
the most recent awful one. It sucked.
Okay, yeah, I know.
It was even below Next Generation.
Isn't it like with that? It like reboot or like it's a direct sequel.
It's like a reboot, but it's like the day after like the original kids are dead.
So all every other Texas Chainsaw Massacre is no longer canon.
Maybe. I just consider this one non-canon. It was just all around
an
terrible.
alternate universe.
Yeah. Even Leatherface sucked. It was all bad.
Nick, stop us because I'm going to ramble on about horror movies.
And then just to kind of round out the main cast, there's Amanda Waller, the Nick Fury kind of overseer of the group, which is played by Viola Davis, which was originally rumored to be Oprah Winfrey.
Would have been excellent casting.
Oh my god,
amazing casting.
But Viola Davis, who you might know from that TV show that came out this year, The
Young and the Restless.
No, not 20, 30 years ago.
ER.
The How to Get Away with Murder or something show that apparently somebody watches.
See that. Yeah.
So there's also rumors that Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor is going to show up.
I forgot about how awful that is.
Hey, you guys know who would play an excellent Lex Luthor?
Anyone but Jesse Eisenberg.
Who, Tommy?
Kevin Spacey.
That'd be great.
He did.
No,
I don't remember that.
No,
listen,
no,
that movie.
No,
okay,
it's Bruce Willis.
That was better.
Bruce Willis was supposed to be Lex Luthor.
It was better than Man of Steel. Okay, now Taryn might disagree,
and I do.
But you can't deny.
No,
I have to agree with that. I have to.
No, that movie did not happen. Because of that movie, we got Last Stand, X3.
What?
Because of that Superman.
Because the director of Superman Returns was the director of the first two X-Men movies.
Like, the only thing that made that movie watchable was Kevin Spacey.
And so, because of Days of Future Past, that means that that movie never happened. So Superman Returns so pretty never much happened.
All superhero movies from like 2006 till now that aren't Marvel movies.
Universe
and the Dark Knight trilogy. They're just retconned, and we're all good.
Exactly.
Okay.
But don't worry, DC's about to ruin the Dark Knight trilogy. They're about to retcon all that.
Val Kilmer is still the Batman of my heart.
What if this movie is just such an underdog, and it turns out to be just the greatest thing ever?
Wait, which movie?
Well, this superhero.
Yeah, false. No, Superman, Batman, not happening.
I think DC is just in this super big bind of
super.
Anywho.
Oh my gosh, Isaac! We tell you right before.
Damn it!
We're having a podcast here, Isaac. Sorry.
We go around. Did you silence your phone? You're over there going.
I did. It was an alarm for work.
Anyway,
but I don't
work
today.
DC's just in this bind of. There's so much going on Marvel's side, so much that has gone right that the bar has been raised multiple times. And while the Batman Nolan-verse movies were good, they're nothing of what they're planning.
Whoa, okay, that's fine. Okay, I thought you were about to say they're nothing compared to Marvel. I was like, I would say those three movies are still better than everything Marvel's thrown out so far.
No. They're nothing compared to what they have planned. Like, there's no real comparison between the two other than Nolan really wants to, set the mood for every DC movie ever made. So it's just one of those things, we got an unexpected group movie with Marvel last year of Guardians of the Galaxy that turned out to be phenomenal. I don't think DC has that in them yet. I don't think DC can...
They haven't proven it
yet.
I think they're trying to.
And they're trying to give this a D-team, suicide thing, but we're not as...
They're a solid C team.
Okay, a solid C. I think Captain Boomerang brings him down real bad.
But they aren't using him. That's not in the movie.
Okay. I thought I heard someone say Captain Boomerang, so...
Are we excited about it?
No.
I'm
not excited about anything DC does
Nothing
now.
positive that you're kind of looking forward to in this movie?
I think what's going to make or break this whole thing is really just...
Jared Leto.
No, it's going to be Batman versus Superman. That's going to make or break the whole thing. And, there's a lot of... I'm the one guy of the group that did like Man of Steel. I get why all of you don't like it. I think some of those opinions are a little wrong.
Okay.
That's your opinion, and your opinion is invalid.
Thank you for catching that, Tommy. I'm glad somebody else caught on.
Oh dear.
Anyway, it's just there's not enough people like me who liked Man of Steel who aren't.
They were all 13.
Now, here's the thing, though. And if they do this properly, like we've discussed before, there are a lot of ramifications that need to be addressed in the Batman versus Superman movie.
Yeah.
Because if that happens, then a lot of our biggest issues with the first Superman movie, Man of Steel, are kind of nullified because we're like, okay, well, they addressed this. It's not just like Superman destroyed Metropolis and nobody's saying anything about it.
Yeah.
No, I don't care about that. The fact that he killed Zod is what pisses me off.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, we've talked a lot about that, and it looks like, from what I can tell, the little bit they kind of leak out about where the script's going and the plot, it does look like that's what it's going to do. It's going to be Batman's concerned about this dude showing up and wrecking
and they're painting Superman as this kind of monster.
But I think the only way for that to really properly work is if Luthor... and not necessarily Luthor and Batman, but Bruce Wayne and Lex Luthor actually oppose him as a character. I think that's the only way that's going to be interesting and cool, rather than Batman just saying, "I'm coming out of retirement." to do that crap, to take on Superman, I think that's stupid. That's bogus. If they're just going to do it like that, I think it needs story, because that's where Nolan, I'm sorry, raised the bar on storytelling as far as DC side of things. And I think what really frustrates me too is we talked a lot, because whenever they first kind of announced this and where they were going, we were all on you guys have to pay Nolan whatever. I mean, y'all really don't even need Nolan's permission, but y'all need to say, Nolan, even if we don't get you and we don't get Bale, your 3 movies are at the beginning. We're using your universe, we're using your stuff, we're using your things. So, sorry.
I mean, if you really wanted to separate yourself from the Marvel movies, that would have been a really good way to go.
And you have such a solid foundation on those anyway, so we're taking them further. We may not necessarily get Nolan in and stuff like that, but we're going to use that darker, grittier universe. And because we also talked a lot about, you know, you could have still used Bane. You still could have used Joker, technically. Even if it's not necessarily the actors reprising him, you still have those characters, because, you know, you never see Bane technically dead, and stuff like that. You never see Joker.
He was shot by a missile.
But he was wearing... We don't know what he was shot by, and he was wearing, like, armor and stuff like that. We don't know, because that was a punk Boba Fett way to take Bane down. Like, as far as I'm concerned. That's something they'll regret later. That needs to be remastered and redone and fixed.
I was just thinking about that scene in the Man of Steel where he has to kill Zod because he's trying to shoot, you know, at the family. The family was like just standing there. I think there was like a hallway next to them. No, it was like, move!
No, they were in like Grand Central Station. They could have gone anywhere. Or Superman could have flown.
You're asking all the right questions, Isaac.
So
I just thought of that, and I just thought that was hilarious.
I have answers to all those questions, but we don't have enough time in the podcast to argue.
Do we have
I will say this. I'm not excited about the movie.
Okay.
But I do want to see it fail horribly.
I mean, I'm kind of there.
It's like a really slow motion train crash. I want to see it just.
You want another Batman and Robin?
Oh, let's go ahead and call the circle what it is. We're a bunch of fanboys thinking we could do better.
Yeah,
and that's why all the bitterness is coming from.
No. I don't think I could. I know I could.
But I know that we talked, like me and Nick at least. I don't know if this ever made on episode Take 5, where I always thought it would have been cool if this, since they were going, DC decided, they said, we're going to build our own universe, because that's what Marvel did. And we're going to build the whole Justice League and things like that. If they had Nick Fury'd it, but with Lex Luthor. Like, he should have been making post-credit scenes in these movies, but he should have been assembling the Legion of Doom.
Yeah.
And that would have been cool if post some movie you have Bane sitting in a cell or something like that, and just Lex Luthor walking in saying, hey, I'm starting a Legion. You know, and stuff like that.
The thing is, Bane wasn't a member of the Legion.
It doesn't matter, because we don't follow the crap anyways in half these comics.
Right.
We're just
I'm sorry that I have more, care about,
I care deeply, but I've left that boat sail. The movies are not going to ever honor things as they should. Even Suicide, as you said, isn't necessarily honoring its roster, and I think that's why I'm mad about Suicide. Is they could have gone the Legion of Doom. If we're gonna build the bad guy team, the Legion of Doom, we have that property. But we're going Suicide Squad, because they made Guardians, and that's a crap team. We can do it, and it won't work.
Suicide Squad wasn't even a villain team. It was just sort of like this weird middle ground between getting bad people to do
which is kind of what Guardians of the Galaxy
Flag needs to be Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Oh my god!
Oh, I just said this. I would watch that. But he needs to just play Stone Cold Steve Austin. He just comes in, throw his hand up, get a beer, and just chug it.
We hear the glass break
every time he walks in a room. I'd be, oh my gosh.
Oh. And we're falling into fanboy.
Yeah. So hey, anyone listening that's still a casting, Stone Cold is not busy.
Yes, he is. He has a podcast to film.
He will take a break.
He can podcast while he's filming.
Yeah, so we're good. Anyway, is there a next subject?
Yes, there's a next subject. But
we brought up DC. That is such a huge can of worms.
There's a huge can of worms to that. So we'll jump to the other side of the fence. Or actually, this not Marvel, but we'll jump to across the street to the poorer community in the neighborhood
Dark Horse.
of Sony and their Spider-Man fiasco.
That.
So this past year, Spider-Man 2 came out.
Amazing
Spider-Man 2 came out.
Get your shit right.
It's different somehow.
It's different somehow.
Ironically, it wasn't amazing.
It was not amazing. It had all kinds of issues.
Spider-Man.
It was. What Sony was trying to do, just like DC's been trying to do, is create a universe. And rather than, since they only own Spider-Man, really, they're like, well, we'll just make the Spider-Man universe.
Isn't Fantastic Four?
No, that's Fox. Fox owns.
That is Fox.
Oh,
but
sorry.
They failed terribly setting up all the different things. They were trying to do the Sinister Six, which is like the Legion of Doom of Spider-Man's world, and then they were trying, a Venom movie on his own and all this stuff. But especially when those Sony emails came out, you heard all the really terrible ideas that they were coming up with, like a
Men in Black, 21 Jump Street.
There was an
crossover.
Aunt May movie where she's like a spy or something, and like. I think I'm hoping that's just idea, like it's part of the brainstorm. Like they're just like, what about that? Is that a thing? Can we make that a thing?
Maybe.
But if that was like super, like okay, well we need about funding for the Aunt May spy movie. You're like, okay, this is in trouble. But but the failure. The failure of
Nick, how did you say that with a straight face?
I don't
want a
know.
Legion of Doom movie so bad. I'm like, I can't get past it.
The failure of the Amazing Spider-Man 2 movie has raised a lot of doubt about where they're going. They've delayed a lot of the movies that were planned for this Spider-Man universe. And now we're hearing rumors about them considering letting Spider-Man go play with the cool kids over at Marvel.
Yeah.
Go home, Spidey. Just go home.
But
Run and never look back.
Marvel's negotiating the release of the hostage.
known as
Peter
Spider-Man.
Parker.
So, what is...
Spider-Man's like, get me out of here. They just made me make a 2.5-hour preview for part 3.
I can just imagine him like sitting on his bed on the phone. He's like, "Mom, I'm ready to come home."
I'm so scared. Make them stop.
Stan Lee is on the other end of the
Mom,
phone.
what's Captain America doing? Oh, he's about to do Civil War. They can't do that without me. Mom, get me out of here. That's not fair.
So, Marvel's...
I did my time.
Marvel's...
I was Tobey Maguire.
Hey, that guy from Social Network.
So Marvel...
No, not the Lex Luthor one. The other one, the bad one.
The one that's dating Emma Stone.
They're dating?
Yeah.
That's...
But anyway, Marvel is making Captain America 3 the Civil War storyline, which in the comics actually involves Spider-Man a lot, but apparently they're replacing Spider-Man with Black Panther. And so...
Wait, sorry, Civil War things, but if Black Panther does the Spider-Man, it's going to be who cares?
But I don't... all racial comments aside...
No, that's not even a racial comment! It's not even a racial comment. It's like Spider-Man taking his mask off and being Peter... Everybody's like, whoa! And Black Panther taking his mask off, and it's just like,
it's not the same. Yeah.
But I don't think they're going to... Like we've said with all the other movies, they're not going to follow that storyline like line for line or they're not inserting Black Panther like a Mad Lib.
Well, yeah, there's certain things that like Civil War you can totally play around, leave out, and stuff like that because that was a huge arc.
It's a
but
big
the
story.
Demasking part, that's the catalyst. That's what kills people is the one superhero taking his mask off.
Yeah. For those of you that don't know what Civil War is about in the comics. There's two sides of the superhero world.
Pro-registration, anti-registration.
So basically the government is wanting superheroes to...
register identities and everything so they can be held responsible for collateral damage or any sort of accidental death.
So which is headed by Iron Man. And then Captain America joins the other side saying, no...
It's headed by two people whose identities are already known by the public as well, which is interesting.
Yeah. So that's kind of where it starts off. And so you already have the two main players in cinematic form, and now they've added different heroes and different, TV shows and stuff like that. Now it's going to be interesting because the Civil War comic involved pretty much every character from the Marvel Universe. So now that we don't really have all those characters,
and you have essentially in that comic book the registrations like Ace in the Hole was getting a superhero to reveal his identity in a massive spectacle way. Mm-hmm. And that was Spider-Man, the comics, but we at Marvel no longer have Spider-Man to do that. And to say, yeah, we're going to throw Black Panther, and that he would have to do that role, and I don't think that's nearly the thing, especially considering Black Panther's never had a movie, so you're having to literally build that whole thing up to the public, where Spider-Man, you can go in, people already know who that is, and know, wow, that's a big deal.
Yeah. And that's why, I know I read recently, some... crazy fan speculation of what they imagined would have been great if they brought over Spider-Man, if Marvel actually managed to pull it off, using Tobey Maguire again.
Holy crap, that would just be the worst.
No, hear me out. Because he'd be a much more seasoned Spider-Man.
Yeah, that's true.
And, people already are more invested in his movies than the Amazing Spider-Man ones. Just because of, he's been doing this crime-fighting thing. They could say he's been operating in New York for literally years.
Yeah.
Which would push the Marvel Cinematic Universe back to 2001.
Yeah, and from that, you could try and incorporate other things, like Punisher.
Well, from a marketing standpoint, if I was in these shoes and I was Marvel and I negotiated the character Spider-Man to appear in Civil War and appear in my movies, I would say, I'm not telling you who's casted.
Yeah.
I would say, I'm casted someone huge.
Until, he actually demasked.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Then...
For one, that's way more emotional, because you're like, ah!
Which one is it?
It's like you're actually feeling like, who the heck is Spider-Man?
Yeah.
And then, of course, you're either going to get a bunch of, applause and claps, or a bunch of, no! No, not Justin Bieber.
Hey, how about Justin Timberlake?
That would be... Actually, he might pull off... He's kind of nerdy.
I can see that.
He's kind of a nerdy white guy. I mean, he's really
I can see
attractive. That's not the worst casting I've ever heard.
Not the worst. We just had the worst.
And then we would have the Social Network superhero trifecta.
Oh, wow. Man, that's cool.
Boom. And the mic drops.
But
or what if it's the kid? Didn't they just recently do a run on where it's like a Mexican homosexual, a Hispanic homosexual Spider-Man in the comics? What if it's that one? What if they go that way?
There was a black kid.
I thought there was a homosexual that was Spider-Man for a while.
Yeah, I've heard about that. It was they totally changed it up, and he's supposed to be.
I thought so.
I
Tommy doesn't know that I'm making it up because Tommy would know.
I've blocked out a lot of Spider-Man canon.
But I thought for a while, a Hispanic kid who was gay became Spider-Man briefly.
I know there's at least a kid that was half Hispanic and half African American, but I don't know.
Yeah, he's.
I don't know if he was.
Comics.
I don't know if he was.
That might happen around the same time they were making someone in DC gay, or Green Lantern was gay, and maybe I just mixed up the two because Green Lantern's gay now, right?
Yeah.
Green Lantern is
it's an alternate universe as Green Lantern, but yes.
Alternate universe. It's Alan Scott, the Golden Age Green Lantern, who doesn't work for the Guardians.
He came out of the closet?
Yeah, well, yeah. His character came out as gay, which in old DC canon, before the New 52, he was married with a kid, very much not gay.
So he was living a double life. That just made all those comics way better. You're like, oh man, he's actually seeing dudes on the side.
But anyway, before we...
So go back and read those.
So I think we're all in agreement that the Amazing Spider-Man series is better left alone and just
let it die.
And Spider-Man.
That was a
we all need to start holding signs saying "Free Spider-Man" essentially to Sony's headquarters.
I mean,
superhero lives matter.
With the topic we just had and this topic, it's this Amazing Superman series is almost the
Amazing Superman series. Amazing Spider-Man.
I'm tired. I have 4 hours of sleep right now. So. The Amazing Spider-Man.
I'll never forgive you for that.
Tommy, half the time you don't even know who I am.
Okay. Fair point.
The Amazing Spider-Man route is almost the exact same route DC is taking. And if the Superman vs. Batman film is going to be its Amazing Spider-Man 2, it's going to be the exact same story with two different franchises.
Yeah.
Of just, you're trying to set up this whole universe.
With one movie.
With one movie. And we've already seen how it doesn't work.
Right.
Yeah.
And we don't have any real reason to believe that it's going to work for DC. So it's going to be placing pretty much everything on Marvel. I mean, yeah, Fox is still doing stuff with X-Men and Fantastic Four, but that ship's going to sail for, only so long.
Mm-hmm. And I think we've discussed already before, in past, that, when you have things like Spider-Man and Batman that are in their, 10th reboots, it's you don't have to tell us the story anymore.
Right.
We can jump into this character. You can give us, a quick, whatever.
I'm
for, the
so
one
done.
Guy that's,
who's Spider-Man?
Yeah, what is this?
Who's this web crawler guy?
Yeah, so
he's not really that powerful. I mean,
he's a nerdy kid that takes photos for the newspaper.
You no longer need the first movie to be the entire origin story.
Yeah,
right.
Gosh, no.
Especially for Batman and Spider-Man, you could just insert them, and everybody's like Batman, Spider-Man.
Yeah. I mean, in this day and age, you don't know who a superhero is. You don't have to read, 40 years worth of comics, you don't have to.
Tommy
You can
disagrees.
Wikipedia it.
Right, but I think Tommy's trying to
Then
say.
you don't know the character if you
Yeah.
don't read 40 years.
If you're a purist like Tommy, read the comics. If you're a sane person,
But can we not all agree that my idea about unmasking Spider-Man on
That-
film
that
is
is a
just
brilliant
the
idea.
greatest marketing idea?
Stone Cold Steve
ever.
Austin.
Oh my god! Takes it off and you hear the glass break and he just like stuns Captain America. Oh my gosh, that is the greatest movie already. And then he just walks each side of the podium, just grabs the beer.
He web slings out for a
Oh,
beer.
he grabs the
Swings
beer. Oh my gosh! And then that's whenever you bring in freaking Black Adam as Dwayne Johnson, The Rock.
Yes!
that's that cameo, and this DC's moving now. Like, this is wrestlers
you
is
do
going
know
to
that you
save
just
this
mixed the
franchise.
universes, right?
You crossed the streams. You
Oh,
can't
did
do
I?
that.
Yeah.
Black
You brought
Adam
Black
is
Adam.
DC.
Oh man, that
Oh.
sucks. Like, well, I can't. Because Shazam and Captain Marvel they're essentially the stolen property from each. Or the name was stolen, and so so I get those two mixed up. I never know who Shazam belongs to anymore.
Before we dive further into fanboy as nerdgasms or whatever, but we all agree, it would be best to bring in Spider-Man. There's no need for the origin story. We can insert him just into the story, and everyone will automatically go, well, he's been being Spider-Man. He's just, we know the story. He got bit by the spider, but I really do like your idea of if they were to try and bring him in not really last minute, but right now as Spider-Man in Civil War, to like say, yeah, Spider-Man's in it, but we're not telling you
Like,
who.
show him in previews,
And that's
and
the
then
whole-
have everybody like searching IMDb
and that's
stuff,
like the
and
whole
there's just
campaign is
no
like,
casting.
and there's that like the whole internet campaign, like you guys have talked about, like Cloverfield and stuff.
Yes.
How it's
Oh, yeah.
like who is like they can just use that. Who is Spider-Man? And it's just like the newspapers from New York City in the comic. They don't know who he is, and they're trying to find out.
If you're going to go the viral route, make the campaign. Make the two different campaigns from each side.
Yeah.
Make the pro-registration and the anti-registration.
Right.
Have people decide before the movie which side they want to be on.
And then, because then you've set yourself up for a movie moment that's on level with like Darth Vader saying he's Luke's father. And
Spoilers,
stuff like
Nick.
that.
Whoa! That's impossible!
Search your feelings. That's
impossible! Oh,
What if DC did that with their whole movie, their whole cast? Is you didn't know who anyone was.
Well,
Like,
it's kind of ruined, but
Yeah.
I know,
I mean,
but
it's
I'm
too
saying,
late.
what
It's a
if
little
that
late.
was the deal?
That would be
That'd
interesting.
be cool.
that would be interesting.
it would be easier to pull off on one hero, but to make an entire movie around where you don't know who.
I mean, even
hero
in
is.
late marketing trailers and advertisements, all you need to put in the trailer is just the scene of Tony Stark looking at in Spider-Man saying like, "We need you to take off the mask,"
Yeah.
and stuff like, and then everybody's just,
and he's like slowly going,
Yeah,
and that's when the title comes out. It's like summer 2016. You're like, ah! And so
that's how we sounded at
yes,
Raw.
that-
By the way,
when Sting came out for wrestling
we
on Raw,
sounded like girls.
We did.
Realistically, we all know this couldn't happen, but technically, couldn't Marvel just go ahead and put Spider-Man in the movie and then just pay Sony however much money?
they're Disney, man.
Yeah, they're Disney. They've made all the money multiple times.
We all know that
Let's
it's just a matter of time until Disney buys everything and owns everything.
I wouldn't be surprised if Disney was just like, okay, we're just going to buy Sony and by proxy buy our rights
Like,
back.
you don't want to give us Spider-Man? Then we get all your crap. It's all ours.
yeah.
Everything.
It's just like,
We get your PlayStations.
Yeah, Disney's going to
TVs.
release the PlayStation 5.
and it's gonna be just Disney games. It's gonna be the new Wii.
God of War featuring Mickey Mouse.
Oh, that would be incredible.
Mickey Mouse is Zeus.
But we've talked about bringing Spider-Man back, but I mean, right now X-Men has kind of righted the ship and they're going down a good path. But there's films like the Fantastic Four reboot, which we're still doubting. There's what other character? Deadpool, which is still Ryan Reynolds is trying on his own to try and get
They're
a
going to
movie
do
going.
that. They need to do it right.
They're trying to.
They need to recast it.
And
'Cause
then-
if you put Ryan Reynolds in it, that means we have to acknowledge origins and we have to acknowledge that crap. And I don't want to acknowledge any of it.
Because they just I just feel like they need to revert back. I'm all for people that are passionate about those characters, making films about those characters. Like Bryan Singer is a great example. He loves X-Men. He's made great X-Men movies. But all the other Marvel properties that they have just been your middle-of-the-road kind of...
At best.
Yeah.
I don't know. Blade and Blade 2 were really good.
Blade is the underrated film series that nobody really talks about.
Blade and Blade 2.
Right, yes, Blade and Blade 2, not that third one.
We can thank Ryan Reynolds for the third one.
Ryan Reynolds just seems to be a constant...
Does he just ruin superhero movies?
He just comes in and ruins superhero movies.
The X-Men Origins, the Green Lantern.
Yeah. he's had 3 chances.
Yeah, and maybe that's how the meetings are going. He's like, guys, I can really do Deadpool. This is me. They're like, Ryan, we've had this conversation before.
You got 3 shots.
Nobody gets that, man.
Yeah. We gotta give it to someone else, man. Sorry.
Evans failed, and he pulled it off the second time.
Yeah.
We gave him a shot too, and he pulled it, man.
Yeah, he made a great Johnny Storm.
He was. It was just the
movie itself.
You know, in that movie, I think that first Fantastic Four was the casting and the handling of Doom. I think that was what ruined it.
Yeah.
Well, I definitely think the casting might have been wrong, but his character overall, I really liked the way that they used him in it. I mean, I don't have any ill feelings towards Fantastic Four 1.
I'm not a huge fan of it, but I think a lot of his Doom was just horribly casted. Because honestly, and Alba, that was a little rough. But the other 3, like...
Wasn't rough on the eyes.
But, no, the other 3 are actually really good casting as far as I'm concerned. It's way better than what we have now, the ragtag bunch of middle schoolers that are about to be the
40-year-old
Fantastic Four.
Scientists.
I really hope that they'd say we're renaming it Fantastic Four Junior High.
Fantastic
or just
14.
Junior.
The Junior.
Fantastic 14, that's a good one.
But I just feel like, and before we jump back into the Blade movies, were kind of the one that kind of re-kickstarted the movement of superhero movies after the atrocity of Batman and Robin. But I do think, and I think most of us are in agreement that unless you find somebody that's just like, that comes in saying, listen, I've read all the comics, I love this character, and I know how to do him on film, like a Christopher Nolan or like a Bryan Singer.
Or a Topher Grace, who should have been Spiderman the whole time, because he's a huge fan.
Then it needs to revert to the people that that created the series and are responsible for it and have a lot invested into it already.
This might segue into the next topic pretty well.
So speaking of properties and alternate universes and things, there's been some more news about the Star Trek 3 movie, which the first 2 were directed by J.J. Abrams, who has now moved over to the Star Wars world and Disney. And so they've picked Simon Pegg has jumped onto the script writing duties.
Yeah, he's co-writing. I can't remember who he's writing
this is
with.
gonna suck.
But apparently, what was the rumor that you heard, Taryn?
The rumor, and I heard this about maybe a month back, that there's some talking of a potential storyline being that they're going to somehow revert back to the timeline. Like, this movie's going to be sort of a righting of the ship from the alternate universe that the Abrams movies have created.
So is it essentially like doing kind of what Christopher Nolan did, not to even compare the two, but saying that they're enclosing these 3 movies as a separate entity almost?
It very well could be that. I mean, in Trek, you have a ton of alternate timelines that sort of just branch off and then immediately go back within about an episode.
Yeah.
There might have been a couple of Voyager episodes that play fast and loose with time travel that take a 2-parter or 2.
Okay.
But this would be really the first time in a movie we see sort of like, oh, hey, this is its own thing that doesn't really affect the main canon, because what we essentially have now is none of that canon is valid if you go in the chronological order of Trek.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, because
I think at this point in the series, Kirk needs to meet Picard.
In the Abrams universe, there's no
Generations.
There's no guarantee that Picard will even exist.
Yeah. No, right now, marketing is another tease where you have them entering some alternate. They've somehow some time travel or something, and you just see the bald head in the chair. But when the movie comes, it turns around. Austin 316 says set faces to stun, and just grabs someone and stuns them. Movie saved.
Yes.
Yes.
Austin is the key to franchises right now.
Kind of like The Rock. So we're just going to bring it. It's like, let's bring in wrestlers to fix all these
I am
franchises.
lobbying for Stone Cold to get a lot of parts in these movies.
Stone Cold.
Yeah. I mean, The Rock did fix the...
But you got to put the little white strips around for Picard on
Yeah.
Stone Cold.
Okay.
It's like it's really poorly done.
When he's at the chair on the ship, does he have like a beer can? Like a cup holder?
No. It's a can of tea Earl Grey. Like,
Yeah, because he's British.
yeah, okay.
So he's gonna hold his pinky up and stuff.
But it's still a can. Like, you have to merge the two.
Can of tea.
Oh dear. But anyway, so basically my question is, a lot of people, there's been a lot of flack and a lot of arguments over the new Star Trek movies, and a lot of the older Star Trek fans that have watched all the movies and the TV shows, they don't enjoy them as much as they do the older movies and TV shows. And then there's new people who enjoy them. There's very few that I've heard that enjoy both, or at least they'll say, it seems like they'll say, well, they were good movies, but they're not Star Trek.
I think I'm the one that has said that.
Yeah. But Tommy and Taryn are two big Trek guys. So I was just
Trek guys.
Trek guys.
Trekkies.
Trekkies.
All right, they have a name.
I didn't want to use a slang term against them.
Honestly, Trek guys makes us sound like hikers.
Okay.
Like,
Lewis and Clark here.
Trust me, we're not going to go on a hike anytime soon.
Okay. But what are your thoughts on the overall Star Trek universe movie-wise? And this is the moment where I'll give Corey the opportunity to slip out the door because he has to go.
Oh, I do have to
really
leave.
hate Star Trek.
I say I'm going to give you a jumping point though. Is it because Star Trek, kind of the older shows, were so endearing in a charming way that the effects were almost practical? Is it kind of like Star Wars for people? Like, one was so set in the time and it was great and it just kind of was nostalgic, and then now it's like it's super polished up and fancy and just kind of
Not really. I mean, because even the later generations movies had really
they were good
Yeah.
graphic, but at that point you're already attached to them.
yeah,
You're attached to Picard and is it Data or Data? How did he prefer?
Data.
Data. Okay, Data.
I don't think
Read
that
Rainbow Guy.
I don't think it's the special effects making it all bright and shiny. That didn't bother me. It was the fact that they took the canon and they just they
mostly
shit
just
all over it.
It's just an alter. It's just because they just took the story and said,
Yeah, because I mean, it does completely negate all of the next generation.
Out of 5 TV series, 1 was kept, and it was probably not the least popular of the bunch, but the middle of the road of the bunch that they kept.
Enterprise.
Yeah.
Wait, I'm confused. So what does the movies have to do with all the 5 iterations of the show? I thought it was just the original series in movie form.
One of the newest of the TV series predates in the timeline the original series.
Okay.
It's a prequel series.
Okay.
So that's still canon.
Mm-hmm.
But original series, Next Gen, Deep Space Nine, and Voyager, they didn't happen because the timeline got rewritten.
How I'm just confused as how in this movie did they rewrite? Like, how does something in these movies keep Picard from ever showing up?
Well, destroying all of Vulcan.
Okay, so there's just major things that really screw up people showing up.
Yeah,
Spock comes back after the last series in the timeline, goes back in time to where the Nick is passing around news at the point.
Sorry.
News that is relevant to tonight and not when this podcast comes out.
Gosh.
Sorry, not movie news.
Not movie news, wrestling news. Man, I hope it has more to do with Stone Cold, though.
But anyway, continue, Jared. I'm sorry.
Spock goes from beyond where the last series ended to before the original series happened, so that's how it negates
that screws
everything.
up his whole timeline.
Okay.
The forced relationship between Spock and Uhura in the new movies, for some reason, it's...
Yeah, there was nothing in the original series to indicate that Spock and Uhura were ever a thing.
Wasn't it like Kirk and
they shared the
that
first...
was like the interracial
the
kiss.
very first interracial
But
kiss
even
on
then,
television.
they weren't an item in the show. It was like,
they were hookup buddies.
Yeah. Kirk. It's Kirk. He's in space.
So it's like there's a lot of things that are happening in the Abrams universe that are just throwing like butterfly effects all over the place to where you don't know what the future holds for the series.
Fact is, we don't know if Next Generation is not canon or not, but just all of the little things that they are changing is going to have this huge effect on everything that would.
So my question is, do you think that they're, by tying it back into the original series of Star Trek films, are they enclosing it where it's like we're like this is an alternate universe, or we're going back to where this actually never happened, and they're just going back to the original series and continuing from the last Star Trek movie that before these? Or do you think it's going to be where they come in and mess with the original storyline even more?
I imagine best circumstances is they essentially send Spock back to his original timeline, and they try to rectify all of the changes that they've done, and they enclose themselves in their own pocket universe, essentially their own timeline.
Okay.
So that way it doesn't affect the timeline of the original movies or the series.
But they can still continue their
if they
series
if they
choose
need to.
Yeah.
Do you think Abrams more or less just got a hold of the franchise and only looked at the original series and never really studied beyond it, and they did maybe unintentionally was like not necessarily realizing I'm screwing up Next Generations and Voyager. He just studied the one cast he had to deal with, which is Kirk, Spock, and all these things.
It's definitely a possibility.
I mean, that's a possibility.
Because I would assume that may be what happened, because Abrams seems to be a pretty solid dude in terms of homework and these things, but it looks like he just didn't necessarily go, oh, this might tie on to those later shows with the bearded guy and the bald guy.
Abrams, like, I think we've said it in a podcast or two before, that Abrams was very much a Star Wars fan rather than a Trek fan. He didn't have any sort of pre-owned knowledge going into the Star Trek films from the series or the movies.
He might have just walked and said, am I Kirk or Picard? And they said, Kirk. And he's like, all right, I'm going to go watch those.
Yeah. It's definitely a possibility.
Or Janeway.
Oh, okay.
We don't. Yeah, no. We don't.
Although I do prefer Janeway over Cisco.
Well, I'm pretty sure Abrams, if it was Janeway, would have said, I'm not doing this film.
Yeah, nobody would do the film.
Yeah.
Marvel would do that film. And they'd
probably
make
do it well.
They'd make it great.
They would cast Scarlett Johansson.
All right, so I gotta go.
Yeah.
What's the next topic, though? Is it fun?
This is the last one.
Oh,
so
bye.
We'll be wrapping up. So anyway, just continue your thoughts on the old Star Trek versus new. What are the main reasons? Is it a lot of just the choices that they made to change things like the Uhura, I can't remember Uhura relationship and things like that? Or is it just the style of the filming itself?
I mean, anyone can watch the Abrams films and know that this was Abrams making Star Trek into a Star Wars type film. I mean, Star Trek hasn't, while there's action, it's never action heavy. It's always been the thinking man's space adventure rather than the shoot 'em up style.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. But because, watching, say Star Trek the Motion Picture, which I don't know why you would ever do that to yourself. Or The Wrath of Khan, or Search for Spock, Voyage Home, any of those. You watch them, it's a very...
It's more about drama.
Yeah, it's more drama heavy than it is.
They're going on scientific adventures, and they're going on diplomatic missions. Like, the missions themselves are never action oriented. It's always like
just it happens.
Yeah, and they've always been sort of looks at humanity now. They've always been sort of like, well, we're dealing with racial issues in current day times, so let's use Trek as let's use the Klingons versus humans to show sort of like how we can deal with those issues in sort of a utopian-esque way.
Because that's the whole point of that's what birthed science fiction originally, even in novel form, was the need to express oneself about certain issues like race and things. But, they're in a society where they weren't allowed to, so they had to create these worlds where these type of subjects could be brought up.
And not be deemed too personal.
Right.
Yeah.
And so...
Where Abrams films, I don't feel that going on at all. Like, you have tension between humans and the Klingons and Into Darkness, but none of it gets resolved. You just blow the Klingons away with advanced weaponry and deal with human issues.
Yeah, definitely going into Star Trek and Into Darkness, both, they are action films.
Yeah.
They are action first, science later.
What I've been told, the constant thing I've been told by Trekkies is that it's like Trekkers.
I actually prefer Trekkies.
Is it bad slang to say Trekkies? Is that a name?
No. I'm just messing with you.
But do the general like Star Trek fan base, do they not like being called Trekkies?
It's kind of a term of endearment now. I know
back in the day it
wasn't.
Okay. It's very split down the middle now because. Like original fans, they referred to themselves as Trekkers, but Gene Roddenberry himself referred to them as Trekkies.
Yeah,
and so it's it's just depends on who you ask how they get offended. I don't care whatever.
I'm just wondering because I've heard both and I didn't know.
This is a whole universe you've never been exposed to, Nick.
But so a lot of it. But what I've heard from other fans of the series is that J.J. Abrams essentially turned Star Trek into Star Wars.
Yes. Yeah. Undoubtedly.
And rather than keeping tradition and making it about these big subjects that need to be discussed or keeping the dramatics about it, it was more about the action and the comedy bits and stuff like that. So are you hoping that it returns back to form, I guess, with the drama, or do you mind some action being brought in?
I don't mind some action. I think there are times in Trek where it can be a little tedious. That, there's all this tension and conflict between the species in the series, but there's hardly any ever sort of big fight scene, unless you're Voyager and you're having them, 3 times per episode. Off screen.
Yeah, off screen. Let's see, the biggest point of difference I can really say between classic Trek and the new movies is the Federation itself.
Oh yeah,
because in the original series, the Federation was more of a diplomatic government.
Yes,
and that they were sent on diplomatic missions. They were sent on scientific research. They were not trained for combat. That's not what they were for. In the new movies, they are a military organization, pretty much.
And even if they act as the humanitarians and the stuff, like, you can tell there's a lot more military expertise in the Abrams universe than I ever felt was in any of the series.
Yes, any of them. I mean, they had weapons. Of course, the ships had weapons on them, but that's like, duh.
Deep Space Nine had a multi-season war, and I didn't feel there was as much military strategy going on as Into Darkness with the whole subterfuge of the Admiral and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, it is like government versus military. It is the Federation is just supposed to be governing body.
And I mean, we could make the argument that in the first movie, when the Romulan ship comes in to the new timeline, that's when the Federation, we've come up against this vastly superior threat. We need to take a firmer stance on the military to be able to combat that. But at the same time, it's like so much of it is different in such a small time period of 17, 20 years that it's like something doesn't seem right. Like, this is too far away from what the Federation started as.
Yeah.
Even in First Contact, which is a next-gen film, you start seeing these seeds planted from the Next Generation crew in sort of the founder of warp travel, who's going to create this whole big Federation.
Yeah. It's
there's a lot wrong.
Okay. So basically what it's boiling down to is that a lot of what separated Trek from Star Wars and made it unique in its own right and really raised the whole sci-fi medium by being more dramatic and about these topical subjects has kind of been washed away by JJ's kind of more action-y, hey, look at this, and all my lens flare stuff.
Yeah.
And so, and it just feels like a watered-down version of it, to say that much, I guess.
Well, again, I just point out, like, in Star Trek, it's supposed to represent utopia.
Yes.
This is what humanity is supposed to attain or go for.
Okay.
Because that's why they were essentially demilitarized.
Mm-hmm.
Why fight wars? We're all united as a people.
Yeah.
And so with Star Wars, it's kind of a more feudal system. Like, there are lots of petty squabbles among all the different races.
Yeah.
Whereas in the Federation, there's humans, of course,
Vulcans,
Betazoids, yeah.
Next Gen gets the Klingons in on it a little, and
and it's more about unity versus feud.
Mm-hmm.
It's because there's all sorts of petty squabbles going on in Star Wars. Like, well, the Hutt, Jabba the Hutt, obviously he's doing illegal shit, and so bad guy, obviously. Whereas in Star Trek, it's like there's a lot more gray area in every character.
Okay. Yeah, honestly, like, I know Abrams wanted to make his Wrath of Khan film, but the better film to have made would have been you seeing what happened in that first 10 minutes over the course of a movie of, is it right to affect a planet's natural progression and evolution to either prove your own scientific ability, to you're helping them, but you're still tampering with their sort of destiny or whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. That would have been a more Trek faithful film than what we got with Wrath of Khan 2, Benedict Cumberbatch's Khan.
Okay. So I'm from what I'm gathering from you guys to kind of help people that aren't familiar with.
If you have stayed on the conversation,
if you stayed on so far, the best comparison I could make would be like Lord of the Rings versus Game of Thrones, where Lord of the Rings is about big battles, a superior evil against good, not as much gray going on, versus Game of Thrones, which really doesn't focus on the battles. It focuses more on politics and things.
Yes.
And there's obviously more death and betrayal and stuff going on. Yeah. But the focus is more on the drama as opposed to the action stuff. A close comparison.
That's a fair comparison.
Yeah.
But it's definitely interesting to hear it.
Boobs
right. I would assume that. Yes. But
that would have been.
What's that one character's name from the one of the more recent?
Dr. Crusher.
No, from the more recent.
7
series.
of 9.
There you go. There's your
Voyager's sex appeal.
There you go.
And she's actually the most one of the stalest characters on the show until you get to season 7, when she finally starts regaining parts of her humanity. She's literally a robot with boobs for seasons 5 and 6.
Gotcha.
I stand by Beverly Crusher.
Okay. Well, my thing, it seems like for me, it's easy to go, well, I want my space movies to be action oriented and space battles and explosions, and Michael Bay might as well just walk in at this point. But you
guys say my name.
Having more time to kind of hear you guys kind of talk about the series and stuff, I'm at this point now where it's like, we've got Star Wars coming out.
Yeah.
So I feel like just like Marvel is the happy-go-lucky one and DC is going to be the more gritty, serious one, it's like I need a little yin to my yang. We're going to have big, action-y, good versus evil Star Wars over here. I would really appreciate a modern version of classic Star Trek, I think that is definitely something that people might be interested, especially fans of the series, because before Abrams movies, we really didn't get that. The last one was Nemesis.
Yes.
Nemesis, and that was late 90s, wasn't it?
No, that was mid 2000s.
Was it
2005, 2006, maybe?
2005, 2006.
But even still, there's been such a jump in technology and different things between then and now that I think they could mix in a little bit of action, because that's just what general audiences need now.
Absolutely, and like I was saying earlier, even in some of the next generation movies, like First Contact, Nemesis, Insurrection.
There's a fair amount of action in those films.
So I could see, of course, them doing, modern special effects and everything, and doing the action scenes that are in there, doing it right. But the primary focus does not need to be, okay, well, we need to, have a crazy gun battle on the Klingon homeworld.
Yeah.
That that was the series jumping the shark for me.
Yeah.
It's like, nope, can't do this.
Because, I mean, Nemesis had these big space action sequences, especially near the end of the film, but they were also, the story wasn't space battle, now in green, but it was more along the lines of what is the measure of a man? Is a man his life experiences, or is it how he was born and who he is genetically? That's the entire plot of the film, pretty much.
That is an excellent way to sum it up, and I'll probably get some nerd hate for this, but I actually love Nemesis.
Nemesis is a good Star Trek film.
Just because of that, the opposing sides, Picard and Shinzon.
Yeah.
Just how they are the same, but so diametrically opposed to each other. And it is, like Terrence said, like, how do you measure yourself? Are you your own destiny? Do you carve out who you become, or
are you that from the get-go?
Yeah.
Got it. Cool. I mean, that's the kind of thing. There's been some small films here and there of your classic kind of sci-fi, which brings up questions like that about subjects, but underneath all the big bang and boom of blockbuster movies, and so it might just be me being a filmmaker and B just somebody that enjoys storytelling above all else. But I think I would be very open to the idea of a big epic blockbuster Star Trek that was really more focused on drama.
Yeah.
And so
and like Terrence said, the first 10 minutes of Into Darkness is what a Star Trek film should be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just because it does raise those questions, like, is it morally acceptable to change something that...
And I think the biggest issue with that is just how the audiences are right now. You see movies that are like intelligently written, and they ask a lot of questions, and sometimes it really is hit or miss. Sometimes audiences connect with that and they go, yeah, I'm glad this movie doesn't dumb things down to me. But then there's people who are like, I just want my explosions and my lightsabers. It's like, well, that's what Star Wars is for.
Yeah.
And
I think we're kind of getting to this point in cinema where a lot of these sci-fi movies are kind of the same thing, just in different... It's sort of like when you're playing a MMO, and like you start out on level 1 and you're fighting like sea crabs that are red, and then you get to level 86 and the sea crabs are the same design, just purple.
Yeah.
Right.
Like you're getting that sort of cinema-wise of every sci-fi movie has been these big explosions and action sequences for so long.
It's like Mexican food. It's all basically the same thing put together different ways.
Okay, I thought you were going somewhere
No,
with that,
no,
but it turned out to be a good analogy.
Avoiding that. Avoiding
paying
that
attention, so
but
very good.
The only sci-fi...
Then it's my turn.
The only sci-fi movie I can really think of in recent history that has been more drama, less action is Interstellar, which I still need to see.
Yeah, and so, and that was actually successful. Critically, people liked it, but they still had some problems with it. But it was still actually successful, and it's one of those movies. It's too long,
very long,
but it does make like the entire time we drove back. I think I said like 3 sentences, and then but the entire time you're just thinking about all the themes and subjects that are brought up in the movie.
I don't always make movies about starships.
But I think it's just also getting to the point to where when the Star Trek series and the original and next gen movies were coming out, it wasn't really cool to like sci-fi and Star Trek.
Not at all.
Star Wars was the most accessible on a cultural scale, but Star Trek was still this very sort of like, that's what nerds go to. That's like what nerds enjoy. And
so I think I think J.J. Abrams' movies have helped bring Star Trek out of that kind of rut and brought it into the main media area where it's like, it's okay, this is cool, this is interesting. So now it's a matter of just raising the bar a bit more.
Or just putting it back.
Yeah, it's like, now that we've got your attention, this is actually what Star Trek is like.
Which is what should have been the second film.
Yeah.
Not, hey, alternate universe Wrath of Khan, everyone. Here we go.
I did enjoy Cumberbatch being Khan.
You waited until
I did,
Corey was
because
gone.
I know he would be the one to say no.
Corey has that issue with Benedict at the moment.
I thought that was pretty fantastic.
he's no Ricardo Montalban.
This is true.
What?
But anyway,
Drop the mic.
with that being said, I think this is a good point to wrap up the show. I want to thank everybody for listening once again. Make sure to check out all of our other videos. We have some other interesting discussions we've had in the past, like River Phoenix that we bring up, or our favorite Bond villains, or what we think about
The guy
in the know. But hopefully you guys will tune in next week. We'll have some more interesting topics to talk about. Does anybody else have anything they want to say, or just
roll Smack and Jack?
all right? Roll that music.
Thanks for sticking with us, guys.
All right, we'll catch you next time. Later.